Can you guys hear me? All right. Not sure what happened, but I'm back. Okay, so we're going to be making this bracelet today. It is a 2-strand bracelet. I'm using a mixture of check glass as well as this really cool sphere shape of Amazonite, some daisy spacers. So what I'll be teaching today is how to make this particular knot. I'm going to kind of go up there close up for you guys. It's a really fun knot just to have a little bit of an extra tie off if you're going to make a leather bracelet. And there's no sound again. Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. And then we'll be wire wrapping some 5 dangles here on the wrist. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Sorry, I think somebody was trying to call me and so it interrupted my audio. Sorry. Okay, so let's get cracking on this. So to start, I'm going to demonstrate how we tie this leather knot. I call it a butterfly knot. And again, if you're going to make a leather bracelet, I just thought it'd be a fun little extra detail for knotting. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use some leather cording. This is 1.5 millimeter brown leather. I like 1.5 millimeter because it's thicker to be able to work with. I think it's a good medium. 1 can sometimes pull apart a little bit or not be as strong, and 2 will sometimes be too thick to knot and do much with it. So I prefer 1.5, and what you want to do is take out your ruler and measure 12 inches. It's better to have extra, I feel, pretty much whenever I do anything than not enough, because that way you don't have to start over. So I'm going to cut this here, and then we're going to grab a ring. So you can use a closed ring or a jump ring. I'm going to be using a bronze ring, and again, this is on the supply list at the bottom. And you're going to go ahead and put your 2 leather strands through one end and pull it through here. Let me do that again. I was reading comments. Sorry, I'm like trying to catch up with everybody. Yes, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us while we go through our little technical issues today. Okay. I'm going to do it this way and pull these through. So when you pull it through, you're going to have this part of your leather like so. I'm going to hold it up there so you can see close. So you have like the first starter portion of what your knot will be. Then what you want to do is you don't want to tie it too tight or anything. You just kind of want to leave it a little bit loose here, because you're going to take one end and we're going to go through the top like this and pull this down. And you're going to form kind of like a side loop over here. And then we're going to repeat this step on this side. So where you have your opening on this side, I'm going to take my cord and go back through this opening like this. And push it through. And then you will have a little bit of an opening like this as well. So you'll kind of like have this flower look. I also have a detailed video on how to do this on my YouTube channel where I go over it in case you want to catch that too. So I'm going to rotate this around, and it's kind of like really loose. That's okay. I'm going to take my cord from one side and go through the other, through the opposite side like this. And I'm going to repeat it on this side. Actually, I'm going backwards here. And then I'm going to pull it through. I think I might have just confused myself. And pull it down tight. Yeah, actually I'm going to do this over again. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so we're going to start over. We're going to be here. I'm going to take the one side and go through my loop again. And it kind of makes like a little bit of a blossom off to the side, and do it this way as well. And then pull my cord through. So you want to have 2 sides like this. and then you want to rotate it around and crisscross your leather in the back like so through your loops. And then you want to pull your leather through nice and tight, and then your knot will be done. You just kind of want to pull it nice and tight and it'll hold it on there. And then from the front as well. Here we go. And then what you want to do when you're working with buttons is, because you have different buttons that are different sizes. So before you close this off, you want to just double check the size with your button. And how you'll close it off, you'll want to have a look like this. So what we're going to do is take our button. We're using this beautiful hand-painted Czech glass button. It's a teal color with like a sunflower. And just a tip about these Czech glass buttons, these are hand-painted. And if they're silver, they're made with platinum. And if they're gold, this is actual real gold painted on here. And each button is individually hand-painted by the crafter who made this, the glass person. I just think that's such a cool side note about the buttons. So if you're wondering how much, they cost or where they come from or some information about them, they're actually hand detailed, each one separately. So before I finish anything off, you want to make sure it's going to go through your closure all right. So before I tie a knot, I just kind of want to hold it up to my leather and just double check it's going to fit through. So, I'm going to give myself about an inch and kind of tie a loose knot here. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And hello, V Gates of Germany. I'm so glad you could make it, especially with the time change. So I'm going to kind of measure here and go, okay, so this is big enough to fit through, but you also don't want it to be too big, because when you're wearing your bracelet, it can fall back through. And if it's too tight, then your button won't clasp. So it's just kind of going, okay, is this the right size? Yep, it's going to hold on there securely. Great. Okay, we're done. So you just want to tighten that and you have your knot finished. Then if you have a longer amount, you can add beads to this and bead it up with large hole spacer beads and decorate your tassels a little bit for extra on your bracelet. Or if you don't want to and you just want to trim it, for today I'm just going to go ahead and trim off this. So this part is finished. So you have your leather closure. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of put that up here. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Here's a close-up of it again. And I do have a really cool tutorial on how to do this. So we got that one. So next, I'm going to go to crimping. So this was a double strand bracelet. For the first strand, I have a mixture of fire polished beads as well as these really pretty Czech glass gold drops. And I mixed it with some green turquoise. And for the larger strand, I have a mixture of Czech glass with Amazonite beads. And I just like to balance out my bracelets like this. I feel like, it's nice to have kind of like a thicker strand, maybe along with a skinnier strand. And especially if you're doing a glass button, you don't want to weigh it down too much with too many strands or too much of heavy beading because of the support with the leather. So I just kind of wanted to do a thinner one along with the more decorative one. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the gold drop strand. And for those, I'm using the 5 by 7 millimeter Czech glass in gold pips. And then I'm also using the 3 millimeter turquoise. And I'm so glad you love that knot. I saw online and I was like, I have to teach myself how to make that knot. And I literally just sat down and taught myself how to make it. The size, I think they're about 8 millimeter. I do have the link to buy them with all of their listing information on this show. If you go under the links, it should go into more detail about it. And thanks so much, Lorraine. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Okay, so for crimping, I'm using a #1 crimp bead and a 3 millimeter wire protector or wire guard. I personally love these. They're so instrumental with the multi-strand bracelet. It cuts down on wear and tear on the wire itself. And it also helps it move around with a nice fluidity if you're using a jump ring, or it just helps it kind of like move around, so it will move around comfortably on your wrist and it won't absorb any damage on the wire. So I just start with my crimp bead and slide it through one side of the wire guard, and then I bring it back through the other side and back through my crimp. Oh, they're not on there? Okay, I will make sure to add the link post show, that way you can find it. And then I'm going to take I'm going to pull this tight through. The other step is when you're working with wire guards is you want to kind of pinch down the bottoms close together so they're touching. And you also want to pull your wire kind of tight so it sits in the groove of the top of the wire protector. And before you crimp, you want to have a small gap between the crimp bead and the base of the wire guard. And you don't want to pinch down the wire guard legs, which will kind of crush it. And you also want to leave a little bit of space for your crimp cover. So I have like maybe just a little microgram here of space, and I'm going to use my crimping tools and crimp down this crimp. And I rotate it off to the side and crimp down. And when you are, oh my God, I'm so nervous, my hands are shaking. When you're crimping, you want to have a little hamburger look. So it's going to be like two little ridges that are right by each other. And then I also do a little bit of a pull test to just make sure it's nice and tight on there. The other thing I'm going to do is I cut down my tail of the extra wire down at the base of the crimp, and then I'm going to cover it with a crimp cover. Thank you. Also, I should say, when you cut your wire for your project, less is, I always cut more. That way, if I'm working on a bracelet and I need to adjust the length for the width of the beads, for example, I haven't stuck myself in a corner. So if you're making a 7-inch bracelet, I would cut 9 inches of wire. So that way you have an inch to crimp with on each end and to work with. That way your beads don't fall off the wire as you're moving it around. And let me get my crimps. So I'm using a 3mm crimp cover to go over the crimp. And I use my chain nose pliers to do my covers. I know some people do them differently. So I'm going to go around my crimp here. And I just kind of tuck my crimp in to the center of the cover. And while I'm holding it in place, oh, thank you so much. I just kind of gently push it down with my tools here. And then I rotate it around and kind of just gently smash it in a circle like this. That way the two ends meet in the middle, but they're not overlapping too much, and it also doesn't crack or anything else. I'm using Bead-along wire, and I'm using the 0.18 one. And I do have a Bead-along link for 7 wire that's shoppable on here. And so this is how I do, I'm going to get my hands out of the way. This is how I'm doing, I'm going to do it like that, my crimp cover. So everything, if you can tell right there, it matches up right at the top, and the base of the wire guards sit right over the top of the crimp cover. So everything is meeting up, and it's nice, it's tight, it's secure, and it's also, I don't have any raw edges or anything like that. Hi, Meredith. I'm so glad that you're here. You are a sweetheart. Oh my gosh, you are my buddy. Yay. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the pattern. And since I'm doing the larger one first, I'm going to start with my Amazonite stone. And I'm going to give you a close up on that one. It has kind of a nice little faucet on the side. And it's this really cool kind of a prism shape. And so I'm going to add one of these. And I love using spacers in between my beads. I feel like it gives just kind of like a nice little added texture to it, kind of like a finished look. And then next I'm using this check glass bead. It's kind of like brown on the outside with a little bit of a similar color of blue and teal on the inside. And the link for this is also on there. And I'm going to put one of those on. I love to mix colors. Oh, good. I'm glad you found the beads. Thank you. I love to mix different shapes of stones and glass together. I just think it adds a really neat texture. But at the same time, you can balance out your bracelets with, you know, a theme like these coordinate and the sizes balance each other out without being like too large or too big. And then the colors also balance each other out with the button really well, I feel like. And do this one. And I wanted to mix in some I'm sorry, it's my cat. And so I'm mixing it with like a little bit of an ivory and some browns and some these teal colors. I'm going to do the stone one next. And again, I'm going to do the stone. And so what I was going to do is actually type out the pattern and post it on this as well. So if you wanted to duplicate the pattern, I'll be sharing that. So in addition to the video, I'll have typed out directions on how to recreate the bracelet with the bead position pattern. Does anybody have any questions or anything? I know my cat's so sweet. She's in one of her I need pets right now, Mom. I don't care if you're busy modes. She'll sit on my table and purr and be like, hey, okay, it's my turn, Mom. And for fun, I just thought it'd be neat to add this owl bead. Again, it has the same colors as the button with the gold and the same translucent blue colors, so they actually complement each other really well. Oh, thanks, Ruth. I'm so excited to be with Art Beads. It's a wonderful group of artisans. And I need to fish out some more of my Czech glass here. All right. I get questions a lot too on how I organize my beads, and I just did this a few days ago. I just found this really cool organizer and started organizing my beads like this. I can go over that with you outside of the video if you have any questions, but it's super handy. I'm so jazzed. It's not too heavy, and you just pull them out. They're right there. So believe it or not, being organized, I find usually I'm a mess and my beads are all over my table and you can't tell what I'm doing. It looks like a tornado came through. But I found that if I organize a little bit, it actually helps me be creative because it's a little bit less chaotic, which I was surprised by that. Usually I have to have clusters of beads everywhere so I remember what I'm working on because it helps me stay where I'm at. Okay, so for this one, again, I just have my beads on there and they are, oh, thank you for letting me know about the shadow. I just kind of have them in a pattern and I have them separated by daisy spacer beads. And the spacer beads are also listed on the shoppable links. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this strand. And when I'm finishing up a strand, now sometimes you'll have the weight of the beads that might fight you a little bit as you're crimping. And again, I'm using the #1 crimp from Beadalon and the 3mm wire guard. And again, I just slide my wire through my crimp and back through the wire guard. I honestly think being messy is so great when you're creative. And like sometimes I have little clusters of beads on my table to go, okay, don't forget this project's over here. Because if I put all my beads away, then I don't remember what I'm working on and then I have to make them again. So I have my crimp on there and I have my wire guard on. I'm just going to kind of pull it down since I have beads on there. And I'm going to pull this down to where it meets the beads. Now, when you have beads on here, a pro tip here is you want to make sure when you're crimping it first that your bracelet will bend If the wire is too tight up against the beads and you crimp it down, then it'll be stiff and it will like not bend, and then it won't work as a bracelet. So I leave a small amount of space between the base of my crimp and the start of the first bead here. And I just kind of tested out like how much room do I need? Not too much room, because you don't want to have like a big gap of wire hanging off your bracelet. You just want to have a little bit of space so that way your bracelet can fit around your wrist, but also the beads will bump back up to where the base of the crimp bead is. And it'll kind of stay in place that way. So I'm going to go ahead and sneak my crimper tool in here, and I'm using the Beading crimping tool. Mine, seriously, I'm not even kidding, like 13 years old. It's one of those things that you buy and they last forever. It's seriously great quality. So if you're a crimper, you definitely want to pick one up. And I'm going to cut down the wire here and then add my crimp cover, and then we can go on to the next strand. And then when I'm done crimping and adding my cover, if I have spare wire hanging off like I do there a little bit, I just kind of cut it down. So that way I don't have too much wire that's going to poke out from the bead. There we go. And then everything is crimped, and then just in case, I'm going to turn around again. Okay, good. This is going to work as a bracelet. It's not too tight. Cool. All right, this one's done. On to the next one. So again, I'm going to start by crimping this one. And this one will be using the pips as well as 4mm fire polished glass and the small turquoise beads. And I love fire polished glass. I feel like it's a great way to add a multi-strier bracelet strand. It kind of gives you a hint of more beads, as well as you can add a splash of color or neutral tone to it to bring down colors on your bracelet, as well as a little splash of sparkle, and they're faceted. How I touch the wire guard. Well, when I'm using, here, I can show you how to do that really quick. When I'm using the wire guard, how it works is I have my crimp bead on first, and I just slide the wire guard through like this, and then pull my wire down tight. And then how I get everything to stay in one place is with the crimp bead on this end. So when I crimp this down, it will hold the wire guard and everything in place, and that's all you have to do. Okay, so I'm going to add the crimp cover to this one. And I personally like using crimp covers because I feel like it just finishes off and covers up the crimp a little bit, so it looks a little bit nicer. And then also you don't have the raw crimp exposed. And sometimes crimps can have a sharp edge, and that's the other thing, is if you have a cover, it will cover up the sharp edge a little bit so it doesn't rub on your wrist or anything. Okay, so I'm going to do this one down. All right, so for the next pattern, we will be doing the pip strand. And for this one, again, I'm just doing fire polish, and I'm separating the pips with the turquoise beads. I'm using the turquoise beads to add a splash of color to match the glass as well as the button, and then also work a double as a spacer bead. So that way it kind of like hugs the pip in place instead of an actual spacer bead. So for this one, I'm using the fire polish beads first, and then I'm going to add the turquoise bead and then a pip. And my cat's so cute. She just got in on my chair and is sitting behind me, between me and the chair. So now I'm being kicked off my seat. She cracks me up. And then I just go through and add the pip. And so this pattern is just fire polished glass, a piece of turquoise, a pip, a turquoise, and fire polished glass. And then it just repeats itself around this strand. And the fire polish I'm using is a really pretty, kind of a clear with a little bit of an AB faucet, like coating on it. So you have a little bit of sparkle and shine with the faucets, but it's also kind of a neutral tone. So it just balances out the color in the other beads on the bracelet without being too much color. There we go. And sometimes with these little beads, it's hard to find the trail mark. There we go. And these pip beads are fun. And the size again on these ones is 5 millimeter, 5 by 7 millimeter. So, and the bracelet also, while I'm thinking about it, is not heavy. And from start to finish, maybe it's an hour-long project, so it's not too long. So you could make one for yourself or for someone else as a gift fairly quickly. And when you buy these beads, they have multiple beads, so you can make this bracelet quite a few times when you buy everything to make it the one time. They come in strands, so you could probably get 3 bracelets out of each set of products. So you could have a bracelet for you and for your best friend, and you guys could be matching. Yeah, she wants me to have good posture on the floor after she kicks me out of my chair. If anybody has any questions, feel free to post them. I'm able to catch comments. Okay, so I'm trying to watch time a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and try to finish this up here a little bit faster. That way I can get to wire wrapping. I was going to demonstrate how to wire wrap the dangles for the bracelet. So I'm trying to cover a couple different things while we're here today. And then next Tuesday, I'll be back with another project. So make sure to come back on artbeads.com next Tuesday, and we'll have fun learning some more stuff next week too. Oh, if the pip is out of stock, just send them a message because they can get it in again. They might have an email you can sign up for too to be notified when they're back in stock. Oops. And these pips are fun. They're super like cute in a gold color. They come in different colors on the website as well. So you could use this bracelet idea and mix and match different colors. Like if you wanted to get a pip in blue, and you could just get a different button and mix out different glass and make your own version of it with other items that are in stock too. Okay, so I'm trying to wrap this up. Yeah, and one thing I just realized too, I wanted to go over when you make a multi-strand bracelet, how you get them to be the same size. So I've been asked this before, how do I do measurements on multi-strand bracelets? Cut this one off a little bit. There we go. So what I do, okay, this is going to be a 7.5-inch bracelet. By the time I pair the leather and the button together, it'll be that long. So I have this down here. That's going to be 7.5 inches long. So for a 7.5-inch long bracelet, you want 6.5 inches of bead work. And when I do a multi-strand, there's no magic involved. I just lay them next to each other and just make sure they're the same length end to end. And sometimes I double check with my ruler. And it does depend on the size of your bead. Now, sometimes they won't lay exactly because you'll have a bead that's maybe larger. So you just want to get them as close to the same length. And then they'll hang about the same space when they're finished on your wrist. Hello, Dominique. How are you doing? You are also beautiful. And happy Tuesday. I love Tuesday because it means tomorrow is Wednesday, which is over the hump day, which puts us that much closer to Friday. And Memorial Day is coming up soon, so it'll be a 3-day weekend. However, I live in the PNW. I live in Washington State, though, so sometimes our weather just really depends. So hopefully it'll be nice weather this weekend. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be making this bracelet with Art Beads. I'm so excited to be joining their team. They're really fantastic people. The beading part takes a little bit longer when you're using the smaller beads. These beads are about 3 millimeter. So it's, you have to kind of like double check where you're putting everything. A little bit longer. It is 3:53 over here. By the way, thanks for hanging out with me if it's, 6, 7 o'clock in your area. I know it's getting close to dinner time, so I really appreciate you hanging out with me. Thank you. I really appreciate people taking the time to join me and hang out with me when they might have something else they have to do. That means a lot. Okay, we're wrapping up this strand, and then we're going to go to wire wrapping the dangles, and then we'll be done. So I'm getting close to being done here. Okay, so see how this is like real close to matching here. I'm going to go ahead and just put one more stone on so it looks finished, and then I will be wrapping up this strand. And again, I'm using a #1 crimp and a wire guard. I'm going to go ahead and put this in there. And I'm going to pull this down. And again, before I crimp anything, I just want to make sure that I have enough space for this to turn around and be comfortable. Another tip when you're working with beads that have more of this oval shape, they're a little bit more cranky when it comes to crimping, when it comes to space consumption. So you do want to make sure you have some room at the end of your bracelet for this to turn around and fit around your wrist. I'm not sure why that particular shape has a little bit more of a stubbornness to it when it comes to crimping and needing room. But I'm not a physics major, so that's okay. Although I like physics for fun, sometimes I watch YouTube tutorials, I just try to educate myself, and I still don't get it. And I'm going to go ahead and cover this one up. And I'm going to pinch it down. Okay, and finish that one off. So now this part's finished, and so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to join everything together to complete it here. So I'm going to use a 6 millimeter jump ring for the back of the button. Sorry, I'm pulling out my jump rings here. And I'm going to attach the button to both strands here. The other thing is, if for some reason you need this to be a little bit longer, you can just add more rings to it. It gives you a 1/2 inch per jump ring. So I'm going to open this one up here and attach both strands together. This is so exciting. Like, if you're making this with me later, let's say you're watching this on a replay, I love that accomplishment feeling you get when you're finishing up your bracelet and in a few minutes you get to wear it. It's such a great feeling. And for this one, so I'm going to open this jump ring here, and this is a vintage ring. It's a real heavy duty metal ring. I think this one is a little bit larger than 10 millimeter. This one's also on the shopping link. I love vintage metal pieces. They're really durable. They're also easy to work with. And so here we go. Your bracelet for this area, this portion is finished. And again, you just want to double check your button goes through your leather. And there you go. Yay! The bracelet is done. How exciting is that, and how pretty is it? So for finishing touches, I'm going to bring out some ball head pins and some check glass drops to add as an accent. So I'm using 24 gauge, 2-inch long bronze or brass ball head pin. And I am obsessed with ball head pins. I think that if you're going to wire up, they just give a great finished detail. They add a bit of elegance to your project. That's just my personal preference. But I just love ball head pins. I can't get enough of these guys. And then I also picked this particular check glass bead because it looks, I just love the shape. It's like faceted. It's 2 different colors that are the same color as the buttons, so it ties in. But it just kind of reminds me of like diamonds or something. I love the shape of this glass. So I just drop it on the ball head pin. And this is how I wire up. So I'm using my round nose pliers. And I take this stem and I hold my round nose barrels here like right above the top of the bead. So I have just, I just have a tiny bit of a gap, and you want to have a little bit of space between, because when you're coiling back around, that's where your wire is going to sit and finish at. And then when you snip the end, it will tuck in there. So you don't want to have it right over the top. You just want to have a little bit of space like so. And so holding it up this way, I take my wire and I fold it over the outside barrel and down and around and curve like so. And then I bring it back up over the top of the next barrel. But first I kind of rotate my pliers up at like a little angle like so. And I go back around over the outside barrel and I just bring it around and I do a few loops like so. And then depending on how you want yours to look, if you want it to have more of like a heavy, that looks terrible. I'm going to do that one again. I'm like off to the corner here so I can get underneath the phone, and it's like totally awkward. Okay, so I'm going to do that one again. So I just kind of go around like this. Also, I do have a tutorial on how to wire up like this if you want to watch that and check it out. And so I'm just going to go around with my hands here to just kind of finish that up. And then here you have your coils. I do 2 to 3 coils under my loop and then trim off the excess wire. And then I just pinch it closed. And when I pinch it closed, I tuck that cut wire back in where my previous coil is, so that way it's hidden in there. I'm not sure if you can see very well, sorry. But it is hidden in there. That way it doesn't touch your skin and it doesn't catch on your clothing or anything. And it just gives it kind of more of a finished look. But so I do this 5 times. And then I will show you how I attach them, because that's also kind of has its own little technique. So I'm going to wrap up some more of these guys really quick. And I gotta tell you that these are amazing ball head pins. They don't flake. They bend nicely. They're easy to maneuver, and the metal plating is really, really good, high quality. It's so hard to find a really good ball head pin, and I've tried a ton of brands, and I gotta say this is one of the best metals I've worked with. And I've decided I'm going to buy 1,000 of them just so I know I have some in stock for a while. Because they're amazing. So if you like to wire wrap anything, definitely check out the ball head pins that they have. They have them in gold and silver and a couple of different colors of metal types, rose gold, depending on what your project is. And this one is just a really nice like bronze color. Okay. All right, I have one more. And for whatever reason, for this particular project, I picked 5. Usually I do the exact amount on everything, like 2, 4, 6. But for this one, I wanted to have one kind of like dangling in the center, so it has its own drape look. So I'll show you really quick. I wanted it to look like it was a water fountain or waterfall. So it just kind of drapes down like that, and it balances out nicely. So I have these guys wire wrapped, and next I'm going to use 3mm jump rings. And I attach my dangles a couple different ways on my bracelets depending on what I'm making. So some I have to open up, like if I'm going on a chain, I open the chain. If it's earrings, I'll do it differently. But for this one, I want them stacked on top of each other, so I'm not going to have as much space, whereas other times I might have a gap of a jump ring in between them for more of a drapery, like longer look, but for this one, I just wanted to kind of have a cluster. So I'm starting off with 2 together, and the next one I'm going to take my jump ring, I'm going to put it in the middle here, in between, and add 2 more, like so. And then for the last one, I'm going to have it separate between 2 of the stones and just kind of hang out by himself. I just kind of thought like it reminded me of a flower stem, like these are leaves with the stem at the base. And I'm separating 2 of the beads here, and then I'm going to put this one in the middle. And I'm going to shut down a little bit. So here we are. And then next I'm going to take a 6mm jump ring and attach them together. And again, I'm going to go in between, I'm going to pick the top here, and I'm going to go in between the top beads in the middle of the jump ring. Is that the right one? Here we go. I'm looking for the top in between the 2 jump ring. Here we go. And then I'm going to attach it to this guy. So this jump ring is kind of off by himself. It's made to be decorated. I can't talk today. Decorated. So you can add whatever kind of beads that you want to this for extra decoration to match with the bracelet. But I just thought it'd be fun to do that. Plus you're incorporating wire wrapping, and this color and the button are the exact same glass. They're both the same color with the translucent glass, so they tie in perfectly. So here you go. That is our finished product for today. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message or email the team at artbeads.com if you have any product questions. Here's a close-up. And everything's available online, so you can grab them and make this beautiful bracelet for yourself. Yay, it's so pretty. I think it's great colors too for the summer, and then also with the flowers and the owl it has, and the flower on the button, it has kind of like a nature vibe. I thought that would be great for the summer too. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out at any time. You can catch this video on replay on artbeads.com. as well as all the products are available there as well too. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. It was wonderful, and I hope I see you next Tuesday, and have a great evening, and thank you so much.